Starting a business on your own can be quite challenging because all of the decisions lie with you.
You become so focused on your work and sometimes the balance just slightly rocks in the wrong direction.
As entrepreneurs, a lot of people come from similar backgrounds and a lot of people have similar concerns when they start their business.
I didn't have any experience and I really hardly had any money to start it up. So I was just thinking out of the box and seeing what was out there.
The Business and IP Centre in London is really the start of a national rollout of business and IP centres throughout England. What we're doing is we're empowering people by giving them the knowledge that they need to make the right decision.
We've got one of the largest business and information collections in the entire UK with experienced staff on hand to help our customers use these resources.
The centre actually proves that the library is not only for academics but also for business people and provides very high quality resources to help entrepreneurs.
We've got keynote reports, Mintel reports, which will enable them to do market research.
We offer workshops, we offer one-to-one advice sessions.
One that we attended and that was really useful was the one with the IP lawyer. We went there and learned how to protect our images and footage.
People have come back and offered to speak at some of our events because they want to share the experience that they've had in the centre with other people.
The most useful programme for me was the Innovating for Growth programme, which is designed to support owners of small businesses develop and grow their businesses and step outside of them and really look at them from a commercial and strategic perspective.
It's always a fantastic experience to meet other entrepreneurs, share information, share doubt and success.
It is the most phenomenal programme and it's helped me strip down my business, which is what I really wanted to do.
If you're not sure where to begin or just need someone to talk to about your idea, the BIPC is a great place to start.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Isabel Oswell and I head up the business team at the British Library and was one of the founders of the Business and IP Centre some 11 years ago now, and I couldn't have done it without a fantastic team, most of whom are here tonight. So I wanted to welcome you all, well, lest I forget, I want to say hello to, we've now got 13 libraries tuning in tonight from around the country. And all we followed or adopted, or should I say copied, the Royal Opera House model, and we are screening to, you can see we have now spread our model out to as many as 9 libraries around the country, and last night we opened our centre in Hull. We had a fantastic celebration there, and Norwich is in the pipeline, and we also have 3 other library partners, in Aberdeen, Barnstaple and... Can you remember the last? Huddersfield. Thank you. Hey. So a very big welcome to you all and to everybody tuning in online as well. So this evening is our flagship programme, Inspiring Entrepreneurs. It's called Brilliant Brands. And we're going to hear from 4 founders of some amazing brands. They all happen to be food and drink. I think food and drink was possibly on our mind when we were putting together the programme. And I can see that one of the speakers has done a bit of guerrilla marketing right here. Propercorn, so.
Never miss an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Never miss a trick. So I just want to say, I recognise quite a few people in the audience, but those who has used the Business and IP Centre? You just saw our video about the centre. That is not a lot of people, but I'm glad to say that Jem has, and I think she'll be mentioning a bit about it later. So that's not a lot of people. I'm hoping that the 2/3 of you who didn't put your hands up will come back and use us or one of the centres around the country. And we have something like £5 million worth of information in there covering, for example, Mintel reports. We have company and financial information. We have all the patents, trademarks and designs ever registered in this country and across the world. And so we make all of that information available to you for free. All you need is a reader pass. And we augment or enhance that by delivering regular workshops on a day-to-day basis, not only delivered by our library staff, but also by a large number of business experts and partners on all aspects of setting up and scaling up a business, including finance, marketing, branding, and pitching for funding. Which reminds me, afterwards in the networking area, when we get together for some drinks, we also have Tesco. I've just had Tesco, you're going to have to help me again, Claire. Back It, thank you, who are a crowdfunding platform for food and drink brands. So if you're thinking of crowdfunding for your particular food and drink brand, then please do go and see them. So one final message before I leave the stage, which is you'll find that you've all got a feedback form on your seat, and I really would encourage you, please, to fill it in. That feedback form makes all the difference to our services and to being able to run either free or very highly discounted workshops and events. So, and also, there are some amazing prizes as an incentive, which I know Nadine's going to mention. So over to Nadine de Reza. She's an award-winning journalist and broadcaster, and she's also an entrepreneur in her own right. So thank you very much for coming again this evening, Nadine.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Thank you very much, Isabel, and good evening, everybody. And I too would like to welcome you to the Inspiring Entrepreneurs Brilliant Brand event. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. It's a great pleasure to be chairing this session, which I know has been brought to you live from the British Library's Knowledge Centre in London on behalf of Isabel and her team. Yes, the Business and IP Centre. And as we've just heard, being broadcast and screened to a record-breaking 13, yep, lucky for some, library venues around the UK. So I'm going to mention all of their names because I know every time they hear their name, they punch the air. They just love it. And then afterwards, we'll do a special, communal good evening to them. So I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Aberdeen, Birmingham, Exeter, Barnstaple, Huddersfield, Hull, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, Nottinghamshire, Norwich, and Sheffield. It was nearly in alphabetical order, but never mind, 13 of you out there. So let's all say good evening, London, to all the other library partner networks. So after 3, 1, 2, 3. Good evening. Fantastic, and I think they could hear us, so wonderful. Now, without showing favouritism, a very special extra mention to Hull, and as Isabel mentioned, you were all up there last night, the team, for the launch of their newly opened Business and IP Centre. What a year they're having, especially as they are this year's City of Culture as well. We're also being streamed online, and I know we're watched all around the world in many countries from the UK. I know that because many of you tweet from different countries. So wherever you are in the world, a very warm welcome to you too. And it's great that you're here because we're going to be finding out about how you can take your food or drink business or business idea, if it's outside of those arenas, to the next level, with the opportunity to hear from 4 very well-known entrepreneurs, each with a very different story to tell. And hopefully in the process, we'll reveal some tips and some secrets of their successes to share with you. Now, in terms of the format, I'm going to ask a couple of questions immediately after each presentation. And then after we've heard from all 4 speakers, I'm going to be joined by Kitty from the Mintel group, who's currently out in the audience. And I'm going to ask her a couple of questions, and I'll reveal more about that later on, before taking questions and comments from you, the live audience, as well as from viewers watching from the different libraries all around the country. And not forgetting those viewers watching online from around the world, they'll be tweeting in their comments too. But also encourage the live audience here. Use Twitter, you will have the opportunity to speak live, but also feed in your comments, and you'll see that we've got a Twitter wall here. And I know before that we've trended on Twitter, so let's try and trend tonight. Let's make this a bit of an event. So tweet your comments, your thoughts to myself and the speakers, to Jem, to Logan, to Anjum and Ryan throughout this evening. And just a reminder, the all-important Twitter handle is @BIPC, and you can use the hashtag BLBrands to really make an impact. So sitting on the front row, you've heard Claire, doing some audience participation already. Claire's going to be monitoring the feeds and the tweets, and I'm going to check in with Claire from time to time later on of tweets that catch your eye. So if you can look out for them for me, Claire, that would be great. So first of all, hands up if you have a food or drink business. I'm surprised our panelists didn't put their hands up, actually. There we go. So keep your hands up, everybody. Okay, there's quite a few of you there. My eyesight's not great, so I might need the panelists to help me dissect the audience. Again, I think about a third there. So hands up if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner looking to grow your food and drink business to the next level. So what do you, yeah? Quite a few, yes, indeed, aren't we all? So there's quite a few out there as well, okay. And hands up if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and thinking of starting a brand new business in general. So again, we've got a few hands up. And I always like to check, has anybody just realised they're in the wrong event? So they're meant to be at Russian Revolution, which is a jolly good exhibition, Strasvitya, but it's not in here, it's next door. So anyway, you're more than welcome to stay. So that's our lineup for tonight. So it's now time to introduce our first speaker. I'm delighted to say it's going to be Misa, who's the co-founder of Cauli Rice. Now, tired of the fuss of making her own cauliflower rice and with an ambition to create a convenient, ready-made option, Jem, alongside her husband Jamie, is in the audience, by the way. Is he here? Oh, okay, fine. He's doing some childcare. He came up with the idea for Cauli Rice and launched the business in 2015. Just 2 years later, Cauli Rice is now sold in nearly 3,000 UK supermarkets. And without stealing your thunder and giving away the rest of your story, ladies and gentlemen, to tell us more, please give a very warm welcome to the co-founder of Cauli Rice, Misa. Nice to have you here.
Right. Okay, here we go. Hi. So as Nadine said, I'm Jem. I'm the co-founder of Cauli Rice. I think before I start, maybe just I could give you a bit of background about myself. I started in the corporate world, which I'm sure a lot of you have or are thinking of making that big jump. I used to work with Unilever in the Philippines, where I'm from. And I ended up getting expatriated to South Africa and then getting sent to the head office here in London, and that's how I ended up here and meeting my husband here. So I was working with Unilever. I was working on one of their biggest brands at the time, which was a laundry brand. So I was excited about the whole marketing and branding bit, but I wasn't very excited about the product. So I think after 8 years of working with the company, I realized I wanted to go off and set up my own business. And I knew that the one thing I really loved was food. I liked eating it. I've never worked on any businesses that had to do with it, but I thought, being very practical and pragmatic, to resign at the height of the recession in 2008 and try my luck at setting up food businesses. From 2008 to 2012, when I started Cauli Rice, I tried my hand at two food businesses that had limited success, and that's kind of where my story starts. Here we go. Let's see if this clicker works. There. Right. So we came across Cauli Rice, or the whole idea, or the whole trend of cauliflower rice, way back in 2012. We saw the whole idea of it circling around the internet, so we thought we'd try and make it at home for dinner, and we were just floored by the product. The whole thing that got us really excited about it was the fact that with the right meal, it looked and tasted like rice, but it had 75% fewer calories. It was one of your 5 a day, and it had an amazing glycemic index of 2, which means that if you're diabetic and you're meant to avoid rice altogether, it just gives you this whole opportunity to enjoy meals that you were meant to avoid previously. And then I remember Jamie and I were talking about it at the dinner table, saying, it's such a great product, but the things that worked against it were the fact that it was a faff to make. You had to have a cheese grater or a food blender, and you'd have cauliflower bits flying all over your kitchen. It took 20 minutes to do on top of the rest of the cooking that you had to do for dinner, and we have a very, very energetic 6-year-old, so that made it even more difficult. So we thought, it wasn't like an immediate light bulb moment, but it did dawn upon us after a while, saying, there has to be an easier way of doing this. Surely there's someone who's already come up with a ready-made version of the product. And the other thing that worked against the whole fresh cauliflower rice is it would go off after 2 days. So you'd have the pressure of taking a whole head of cauliflower, blitzing it, and having to eat it in 2 days before you have to chuck it. check the lot. So we thought this would be a brilliant opportunity. You know, there was a huge gap for a convenient version of the product, a ready-made version of the product that would have a long life aspect to it as well. So we thought, you know, why don't we give it a try? This was way back in 2012, and we couldn't believe why no one was doing it. And then soon we found out why. It was so difficult to make. It took us 3 years to develop the technology around trying to find a way to preserve cauli rice and other vegetables without the need of any preservatives. But we finally, after 3 years, came around to, you know, to developing what we have now. To the point that it was so unique that we were able to patent the technology, which means that you have a 20-year protection over your idea. So we launched a year and a half ago, so we're on our second year of trading, and we're hoping to end this year with 2.5 million turnover. We're in 3,000 supermarkets. We're the fastest growing brand in rice, and we're also, by September of this year, going to be launching in 3 major supermarkets in the States. Yeah, thank you. But it sounds so easy, but it hasn't been easy. So like I said, I had attempted to try, and I wanted to get into food. Like, I like any food in general, but health food I was genuinely excited about. I thought there was a real need to, you know, come up with a brand that made people really excited about eating healthily, and that's the whole idea behind the previous innovations we did. I think the big advice that I have for everyone here who's setting up your food business, one of the big learnings I've had through the 4 years before actually coming around to doing cauli rice is, you know, cool packaging and a cool brand is not enough. You know, you genuinely need to find a way to make your product relevant in the market. It needs to stand out. It needs to fill a real gap that none of your other competitors are able to do. And that was the whole inspiration behind cauli rice. Right, so that brings us to the next slide. And this is why there's so much going on with the business now, but when we got this invitation to speak here at the British Library, we thought, you know, we should do this because I owe so much to the British Library. All this information here I managed to get from the Business Centre. And the thing that is coming from when I used to work with Unilever, I knew how expensive it was to pay for research. So when I first came here, I couldn't believe. So for the people in the audience who don't know, you can sign up for free. You can become a member of the British Library, and you will have access to the most up-to-date consumer research for any category, competitor data, category data for the product that you're looking to launch in. And it really, really could help you develop a really strong, you know, try and find out what it is that your product, your unique selling proposition is. So for us, the things that we found so when I started pitching this to, so I mentioned we're in 3,000 supermarkets, and we managed to get that list, all those listings in the span of 12 months. It isn't because we were lucky. I truly believe it's because of the strength of a consumer insight behind the product. So you have to be able to ask yourself several things. So why is your product relevant? So for us, for cauli rice, we found out that over 60% of adults in the UK were overweight or obese, and by 2050, I think they're expecting that 60% are just going to be obese. So it's quite a scary number. And then if you look at UK adults, over 65% of them have gone on a diet in the past 12 months. And if you look at the kind of diets that people do, more than half of this have to do with cutting out the carbs in your meal. So the traditional carbs like rice, pasta, and potatoes. The second question you should ask is, does your product answer a gap in the market? So I took those big insights I got from the Business Centre here in the library, and I had a look at what was in the category. And I saw that there was only one low-carb, low-calorie alternative to rice and grains on shelf, and it was made of konjac flour, which is like a paste that you sort of mold into whatever shape you want. So I thought, you know, this is great because with the product idea that we had, it was made from something familiar. It's cauliflower, it's a vegetable. So we thought that, you know, we could really come in there and make a really, really big, like significant difference on the shelf. And the third thing is what supermarket, it's one thing telling supermarket buyers how great your product is and how important you think it is, but one of the big things that they want you to answer is how they can make money from your brand. And for us, going back to what the data we found here in the British Library, we found that the rice category, which we are going to launch in, was not growing. It's a huge category that had 1% growth a year, and it's usually mainly due to inflation. So we thought these were really big pieces of facts that we were able to present to supermarket buyers who couldn't argue against it, because it's research, it's quantitative research, and that's the best way to kind of cue up your brand to people, because buyers usually have so many categories that they're managing, and they're not experts at salad dressings or rice, or so for you to come in and tell them all of this and come in with these authoritative facts, it could really help cue you up for a successful pitch and a successful listing. So using all of that, I think the big thing that kind of got us into the supermarkets that we're in now is, we saw how big the low-carb market was becoming because of everyone who was going on the diet, and most of them are going on low-carb diets. We saw that there was a flood of low-carb products, so protein bars, protein shakes, all sorts of diets. But all of these are mostly snacks, and where these products and diets failed was they were not able to successfully take the place that the traditional starches like rice, pasta, and potatoes would take on your plate. So this was the gap that we were trying to fill, and this is kind of the thing that got us to most of the listings that we had in supermarkets. So how did it do for us? So we were talking earlier, we were planning to launch this in 2012 and no one knew about cauliflower rice then. So I think it's also a matter of timing, because I think if we launched our product then, people would have found it really weird. But somehow, because it took us 3 years to develop the technology, by the end of those 3 years, the cauliflower trend was getting more and more popular with people. So I think eventually we did find that we launched at the right time. And the nice thing when we started was we had hardly any budget we did several rounds of crowdfunding to build a factory to use as working capital for all these supermarkets. So we had hardly any funding to do any kind of marketing. But the great thing is because of how innovative the product was, what we were finding in social media where people were just tweeting, posting on Instagram, posting recipes that they've done with the product, posting what kind of difference it's made to their lives, which makes us feel, really like the product we've come up with is making a difference, which is great. And, just show it really helped, with word of mouth. So building our awareness through word of mouth. Since that time, we've been lucky enough to do our latest round of crowdfunding, our fourth round of crowdfunding, which helped us to really build fund our marketing campaign. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end my presentation with a TV ad, one of the 3 TV ads that we've developed. That's it. Cue TV ad. Oh, there we go.
We love to keep busy, there's never really enough hours in the day for us. A huge thing for us is convenience, which is why we use cauli rice so much. We use this to add more veg really to our diet. Just rip off the top. Thank you. And if you are looking to cut calories, cauli rice is up to 75% less calories than rice or pasta, so it's a great alternative. The dish we created for you today is just the original cauli rice topped with a lean beef chilli. Simple and tasty. Delicious. Eat well. Save calories.
That's it. And that TV ads helped increase our sales by 300%.
Hugely impressed by the fact that obviously you're breaking into America as well. But first of all, can I ask you about crowdfunding? I think from the audience's point of view, is it something that anybody can do, and how best to approach it?
Yes, well, crowdfunding, I'm a huge ambassador for crowdfunding, and we usually work with Crowdcube, but we have Simon in the audience here from Tesco's Backit, who I'm sure will be talking about it as well. Anyone can do it. The whole idea is you get different types of crowdfunding. You get reward-based crowdfunding, which is similar to Backit and Kickstarter, where you don't have to give away any equity in your company. You can give away free product. usually, personally, I find unless you're one of those like Pebble watches, real innovations, that there is a limit to how much you can raise through reward-based crowdfunding. How we did it was through equity-based crowdfunding. So the whole concept behind it is anyone can put in as little as £10 in your business in exchange for equity. We've done it 4 times now, and we've raised over £3 million, which is great because it's something that we absolutely had no funding for when we started. So, you know, people believed in the idea and they really got behind it. But the good thing about that is it's different from what you would get from a VC, which sometimes is all about numbers and financials and short-term financial gain. You get real people who love your product, love the vision you have for the company, and they help you push it. So they'll tell their friends and family about it. So it's a really nice way to kind of just, get people to help you if you have a new product out or you have a new TV ad out, and they share it on their social media. So I highly recommend it.
So how much equity have you given away, though, as a result of that?
Well, we've still got more than half.
Okay. You've got the holding vote still.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, I know you entered the Virgin Startup, is it
Yes.
Foodpreneur competition, which gained the backing of one of Britain's most recognisable entrepreneurs, Richard Branson. And that must have been a huge stepping stone to your success. What advice would you give to people in the audience that might want to go down that competition route? Would you suggest it's a good idea?
I do think it's a good idea. It's great for PR. However, don't let it take too much of your time, because there's always a chance that you don't make it to the top or that sometimes I find there are businesses that put everything else on hold just to make this to make it work. So yes, do it, because it's any kind of PR is good PR, but especially with Virgin, the Foodpreneur and Pitch to Rich, or I think it's now called Voom, for us it was great for just really building awareness for the brand. But again, it didn't make the business. So if you feel like your resources are, constrained, then you can do without it at the start. But it is a nice way to kind of get your brand out there.
Now, we've mentioned, obviously, you have a husband. He happens to be your partner in business as well. So any tips for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there that are thinking of going into partnership with their partner in more ways than one?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is we were saying at the start that we'd never work together, because we're so different, and we always were, our opinions are always like the complete polar opposites of each other. And we found, at the start so when I left Unilever in 2008, he actually had to, it was quite stressful for him, like doubling up on the income, making sure everything worked while I had to get my act together. And it took me years to get my act together with this. But we've just managed to get to the point where he's managed to let go of what he was doing and for us to be working on this together full time. It's great because, sometimes you do have those arguments, but I think as long as both of you have the end goal in mind, that you both want to, get to a certain point with a business, then it works.
So recipe for success for you?
The recipe for success.
Being with your
husband. Yes.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. Yes. You had to think then, didn't you? You had to say yes straight away. Just finally, before I introduce Logan, you mentioned about going to the States and opening up in 3 supermarkets. Now, the States for many is not the land of the free, as Tesco have found out to their peril, and many other brands. It's a very, very difficult market to conquer.
Yes.
So what makes you think that you're going to be different? Are you ready, eyes open?
Well, we're not there yet, touch wood. I mean, I can't say that we're successful there yet, but we had, with my second company, Righteous, the salad dressings, we had a first go. I tried attempting breaking into the States on my own without much of the local knowledge and working with local partners. Yeah, and we had some good, we got huge orders from Costco and quite a lot of companies there. But in the end, it kind of fizzled out. And I feel like it was really because of the lack of understanding. The trade there is very different, like the charges, the retailer charges, and how people market. And, that I think this second time we are going back in with a very credible local partner. And we are, currently we manufacture from here in Cambridgeshire, but the plan is to start manufacturing from the States locally by next year.
Wise words, and having a local partner as well. So wish you all the success for that. Gem everybody in the meantime. hungry, you're going to be feeling very thirsty in just a minute, because our second guest this evening, Logan Plant, is the founder of Beavertown Brewery, which is a craft beer company which began life, I believe, as a kitchen table experiment in 2011. Again, I think he's going to tell us all about this. But before long, Beavertown Brewery has grown into a very successful business that now exports to more than 20 countries when I last look. And I know your love of beer was born from growing up in the Black Country, so fair play to you. So ladies and gentlemen, here to tell us more, please give a very warm welcome to the founder of Beavertown Brewery, Logan Plant.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say it's a massive honour to be here tonight with my baby and to talk through Beavertown and the journey that I've been on and we've been on as a group of people. And secondly, it's National Beer Day. Yay! Which I've just found out on one of the tweets, which is awesome. Apparently, yeah, someone just popped it up there. I'll give you a little brief history about myself and Beavertown. We've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep it snappy. But as mentioned, I'm from the Black Country, which is the West Midlands, which is a wonderful area to the southwest of Birmingham. And we have a great brewing heritage up there. Many family-run breweries, based 150 years ago, brewing some amazing beers. And I was fortunate to be dragged around these as a boy, which I didn't particularly like then. But by the time I got to, in my teenage years, 18, 19, I became obsessed with the local beer scene up there. So much so, my friends and I, we drive around to particular pubs to drink particular beers. And this grew into a kind of obsession. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but I was definitely obsessed with the romance of beer and everything behind it, from the pub, from the environment of drinking a beer, and then obviously to the process of making beer and becoming a brewer and starting a brewery. It didn't occur, as a young boy, I wanted to be a centre forward for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and then I went into being a rock and roll singer for a couple of years. But I travelled and I got to taste many different things and see lots of different things, smell lots of different things. And of course, my obsession with beer led me to trying many different beers in many different places across the globe. And touching upon the American craft beer movement, which I think had started back in the kind of late 80s into the 90s and really started to find its feet, I'd say, in the early 2000s. Super inspired by what they were doing over there, the way they were twisting recipes, using different infusions. And I guess the breweries represented more. To me, they were characters, the beers were characters, the brewers, I kind of felt like I knew. It was like, they were my favourite new kind of band. Coming back after a kind of unsuccessful tour in the US, I'd popped into a barbecue drunk. I drank some amazing American craft beer and I got the bug, and it really was a light bulb moment. As was mentioned before, I just got this huge slap around the face, came back, cut my hair and started homebrewing. As you do. My wife, who's here, she wasn't particularly fond of that. I was making a mess and terrible smells in the kitchen all the time. I basically just taught myself for about 18 months. I bought books, I read articles, internet, blogs, whatever it was. I then tried to create these kind of potions, if you like, in the kitchen with this mindset that I was going to open a brewery and it was going to be in a brew pub and we were going to serve American barbecue. So roll on 18 months of kind of messing around, if you like, in the kitchen and building a business plan. We opened Duke's Brewing Q in Haggerston in an area called de Beauvoir Town, which is actually Beavertown to the locals. And that was it. So it was American barbecue, craft beer. I had a little, maybe it's like 800 litres, the brew house in the kitchen at Duke's. So I was brewing once a week then. And then after about a year or so, we moved out of there and we moved to Hackney Wick on the same kit, just so we could brew a little bit more. And at that time, we were still bottling by hand. We were labelling by hand. It was a pretty adverse environment, if you like, but it teaches you many, many great things that you take forward into the rest of your journey. By the time we left Hackney Wick on that little brew house, if you like, I think we were brewing about 200,000 pints in a year. And then we moved to Tottenham Hale, where we are now. We've been there for 3 years. But during that time, that first 2 years, what we did do is that the restaurant was going all guns blazing and doing a really good business, and the brewery was finding its reputation, finding its feet, and allowing me to kind of, mess around and come up with these crazy brews. And it supported us. And what it did, it allowed me to gain recognition from the bank. Initially, the bank wasn't very willing, I guess, at the time. I think it was 2011 when I went to the banks. There wasn't much of a verve for food and beverage at that time. So we went to about 5 or 6 banks, and eventually we found one, Coots, which is the Queen's Bank, apparently. And they backed us. So yeah, we raised everything. My wife and I put our house on the line. The kids, we've lost one of them, but we got it back. It's great. They put her in school and everything. No, we did put a lot on the line. But what it did do, the restaurant ploughed a lot of its profits back into the brewery, and we went back to the bank 3 years ago to raise another, I think it was about another £2 million of debt and asset finance. We pumped it into this new brewery where now, I think this year we're going to brew, I think we'll get up to about 5 million litres, nearly 10 million pints this year. So in the last 3 years, we've gone from 200,000 to near 10 million. So it's been a hell of a jump. But that, I guess that aside, how do we do that? And I'll just briefly go over some of the points. The first one is ethos. One of the big things. It's all about the beer, but it's more than just a beer. So each of our beers has a personality. It's tactile. We want to make it tactile. We want to give it a heartbeat. We want to make it a living, breathing thing that people can recognize and have a relationship with. Our brewing mission is driven by experimentation and the flamboyance of recipe. And stimulating our drinker is a key thing for us. In a market where there are thousands of beers, how can we stand out? We are driven by experimentation, as I mentioned, and also by our service levels. The one thing that we realize is, yes, of course, we are a brewery and our mission is to brew amazing beer, but it's also to serve people, and those people being our accounts and our distributors. So a big thing that we've been investing in recently is a whole kind of full 360 kind of service model, if you like. So it kind of starts with our process, the grain and the hops and the malt and the water, and it finishes on the lips of the drinker. So everything in that we are trying to invest in and make, increase the quality in what we do, and specifically work with our accounts. I think by educating is one thing with beer. It's not just a beer. What is it? It's an IPA, it's a sour beer, it's a mixed fermentation, it's barrel aged in bourbon for 12 months. Why, You've got to work with these guys, these bartenders, these distributors, and they've got to bring your beer to life. They've got to bring your product to life and be your ambassadors out there on the other side of the bar and spelling the word to the consumer. One of the other things we constantly look to invest in is being better. And that is investing, when we can, into the quality of our equipment, our procedures and our techniques to make our beer better, fresher, more stable. It's investing in our people. So the team there, Team Beaver, it's about, educating them. It's about putting them on courses, bringing them up, and hopefully giving them a career with us that will be, longevity within the business. And excellence. When we can, we bring in, people that are better than us. I realise, starting on my own and working, bringing the team together, that I can't do everything. I need to bring in excellence, and when we can afford to, we try and bring in the best people to take our journey forward. And with that regard, we'll move on to the next one, which is brand. So brand, again, similarly, as was mentioned before, differentiate, be that unicorn, be that one-off, again, there's thousands of different beers out there. There's thousands of different breweries. It's a crowded market. We have to stand for something. And that's been a key, I think, within our development. Our brand has changed 3 times. Initially, there was the first brand, then we went into the second one, and then we went into cans 3 years ago. I was lucky enough to come across in Duke's Brewing Q when I was brewing in the kitchen. There was a young man doodling in his notebook, and he just completed his I think it was design and illustration at Central St Martin's, and he was a waiter at Duke, so he used to wait. I was brewing in the kitchen, and I looked over his shoulder one day and I was like, what is this skeleton psychedelic stuff? This is exactly what I love. This is this is everything I'd love it to be on our on our bottles, and eventually on our cans. And Nick Dwyer is now our creative director, and he's been with us for the last 4.5 years, and he's not a waiter anymore, Yeah, no, he's a serious part of our team. And again, with that, that helped us to define ourselves within the market. Definition is key. What do you stand for? What's the personality? And I think loving your own brand, if you don't, I think, who else will? And we do that through our communication. We do that through our tone. Socially, we are open and honest and interactive, and we try to make the experience of drinking a beer, of coming to the brewery, as stimulating as possible. Consideration is another big thing. I think care and attention must go into every piece of the jigsaw, whether it's the concept of the beer, the recipe, the ingredients you use, the brew day and what you do, your packaging, your design, and then again, as I mentioned before, the service levels that you offer your customers and your accounts. And then conviction, brewing is it's a blank canvas. You can express yourself. There's no boundaries on what you can do with fermentation and infusion of ingredients. It really is limitless. And I think, for us, it's about getting out there, and I keep mentioning this word, but stimulating people, take them on a journey. If you can do that, and if you can do it with absolute conviction, and knock it out of the park, basically. I don't think you can leave anything behind. I don't feel like you've half got the idea out there, and just wait, take your time, get it right. And then I think most importantly, people, as I mentioned a couple of times, one of the quotes that we use at the brewery is everybody here amounts to everything. And at the brewery at the moment, there's about 60 of us. And throughout that day, Team Beaver, as we are called, each and every one of us is a leader. It's not just me. It's not Nick, the designer. It's not the packaging manager. It's not the guy. Each one of us imparts a massive part on that journey of the beer, from conception to brewing to packaging to, again, as I say, ending up on the lip of that drinker is essential. And I guess the two things that we concentrate on and we really care about within our team is our culture. It's a hard, manual, repetitious day, brewing, packaging. So what we try and do is to kind of create the best work environment that we can. And that comes with, I think, employing the right mindset of person. Not only could they be excellent, but I think they've got to suit the team at large. And I think that's been a really important thing that we've concentrated on is getting the right people in with the right skills, but also the right person for the team. And we try and promote positive ownership, which means that, no matter if you're in the sales team or you've been packaging this week, we do a hell of a lot of meet the brewers, tap takeovers, festivals where we're on the road, and we are in front of people talking about the love and passion that we have about beer and Beavertown, and getting the team out there and talking about it. It's that kind of love and relationship, which I think, for our product, that's what it's all about. A beer is about that, that's how it should be consumed. And if you can just educate and bring people into your world a little bit more, that's essential. And that ties me into community is the other main thing, that connection, that interaction, that relationship with the drinker. So, for example, at the brewery up in Tottenham Hale, on Saturdays, we open the doors and we have a little tap room there, and people come up, and we have, 600 or 700 people every Saturday. We have a couple of food trucks, and people come in physically into the brewery. The brewers are there. They talk, they ask questions, they just, sit back and chug, or they just, laugh the day away. But again, it's all about building this kind of relationship. As I say, it's more than just a beer. Again, moving up to Tottenham Hale has been an amazing kind of event for us, working with Haringey, working with other local traders that have moved up there, other new businesses who are amazing, and partnering with them has been a joy. And then just quickly, get this last one. Future, what does it mean? A term that I've coined recently is that we are fulfilling the prophecy. In biblical terms, this is a new age. I think it's a new age for beer. And it sounds a bit corny, but we're beer evangelists. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have said that. My wife told me not to say that. But I really do believe, this great British industry that is brewing, that's been going on for centuries, if not, millennia across the world, particularly in Britain, we've got the chance. We are changing it. It is being turned on its head. And I think it's only going to happen once. And we're part of a team of great breweries across the UK who are, making, I guess, big strides to kind of change this thing that is beer. And, London is a great capital, if not one of the greatest capitals in the world. It's got an amazing decorated brewing history, and we want it to be a brewing capital again. And we want to be London's go-to craft beer, around the bars, around the restaurants, into the independent stores. That's our mission. So I guess to finish on, for years, I guess we, the public, have settled for middle-of-the-road, kind of fizzy, mass commoditized Goliaths. And I think these new breweries, are the Davids. And we are definitely finding our feet, and we intend to not stop chopping down the giants and giving people more, giving them more than just a beer, giving them an experience, giving them stimulus, giving them creativity, giving them ingredients and recipes that they might never have heard of or tried before. And giving our accounts the service levels that they deserve, so it's not just a bunch of kegs with an invoice that's meant to be paid. There's so much more to beer, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and National Beer Day. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Logan. Isn't it always National Beer Day? Isn't it every day National Beer Day? I've never heard of this one before. Is it really genuinely National Beer Day?
It's every day in my house, but yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Apparently it is.
We got a fantastic tweet in, actually, that caught my eye. Rich Jebson said, "What a beautiful story." That's quite nice, I know. They're all coming out now. We like them. Just very interesting, you mentioned about London and Tottenham Hale and the community and that journey you've been on. I think David Lammy is probably the local MP in that area who gets community very, very well. So how do you go about engaging that immediate community? Is it job opportunities for people within Tottenham, or is it the wider London brand that you're pulling in on?
The way that we've done, I think, by opening the tap room and mentioning just about that connection to locals, out of those 600 or 700 people that come every Saturday, a hell of a lot are locals, families with their kids, bring their dogs down and hang out. So no, there's a real connection. And not just with us, there's some great other traders that have opened up over the last 2-3 years that we've been there, and we all work together. And I think that's it. That's how you make a community, and that's what we've been striving to do.
And you've mentioned that 3.5 years of exponential growth and how you've brought in people that are better than you. But how have you really managed those 3.5 years? Have there been times you thought, God, you know what, I wish I was back to the kitchen days when it seemed so much easier then? Because it gets serious, doesn't it, with 60 people, their livelihoods, and recruiting the right people, the mindset of people. As you get bigger as a business, is it hard to keep on to that culture?
I don't know how I've done it, to be honest. No, I believe a lot in fate and destiny, coming across Nick, our creative director, coming across many of the team, who have made big moves within the company and have been, a strong basis of what we are as a culture of people. And I think, there's a love of the product, and getting them out there and talking to the public and feeling that love back, it empowers the people, it empowers the team.
Now, you mentioned about your next plans, which I'm sure you're going to achieve, but how are you going to do it? How are you going to achieve all those visions that you mentioned to the audience earlier?
The next plans, at the moment in Tottenham, we are at capacity. We've snuck a little bit this year, but, our plan is to build another brewery and stay within London and continue to grow and hopefully, be that go-to craft beer for London on the taps. The opportunity is amazing. The environment is amazing. People want more for their experience. They don't mind going out and paying an extra 50p to get something that they can connect with and actually that has a sense of flavour and aroma.
Well, Logan, thank you very much for sharing your story. Logan, everybody, thank you. Thumbs up, Logan. Now, before I introduce the next speaker, I want to quickly tell you about a couple of other things that we've got coming up. First of all, we have a very exciting upcoming event. It's the Scale Up Summit. There's details behind me. Yes, they are. On Tuesday, the 11th of July. Not to be missed. There's a whole array of great speakers taking part in that, and I'm going to be chairing it. So I know the tickets have just gone on sale today. Further information can be found. I think the link is up there somewhere, but I will read it out to you. It's bl.uk/events/Scale Up Summit. If in doubt, just have a look at the BIPC website and it would come under events. So hopefully you can make that. That's the 11th of July, a Tuesday. And also another thing to quickly mention, the Business and IP Centre user survey is also currently live. And I'd like to encourage you all to fill in the survey before the deadline date, I believe, is the 18th of June. As an extra incentive, and this is the bit at the end where you go, woo, you could win one of 5 £100 vouchers to use on Amazon. Thank you very much. Oh, I do like you as an audience. Okay, so those are 2 things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Well, let's get back now to brilliant brands. And our next speaker this evening is Anjum Anand, who's a renowned TV chef. If you're looking at her now thinking, I recognise this lady, you're right. Food writer and founder of the Spice Tailor, which was hailed, I believe, as one of the most significant world food product innovations in the last decade. Now, Anjum was one of the first food writers to create and write Indian recipes catering for the health-conscious cook. And she's been writing and selling books which are bestsellers, including the Indian Food Made Easy book, which I looked when I was doing my research. It topped the Amazon bestsellers list, even knocking, would you believe, Harry Potter off the #1 spot. I think probably the only book that's been... There you go, there's your fan. We found it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here to tickle your taste buds even further, please give a very warm welcome to the founder of the Spice Tailor, Anjum Anand.
Hi and welcome. It's funny, I've already listened to 2 entrepreneurs in the food world and I think, yeah, I was going to say that, and I was going to say that. Our stories are all quite similar. I suppose my aha moment came when I was in university, not studying food, but studying business. And I left home for the first time. When you're an Indian and you live at home, your mother cooks for you. My mother was a good cook and we always ate Indian food. We never questioned it, we just ate it. When I went to university and I missed her food, I went to the supermarket one day and I bought some products and I tasted them. I thought, this is not Indian food. This is disgusting. I couldn't eat it again. And I suppose the other pivotal moment in university was when some friends said, let's go for a curry. So let's go for a curry. And actually, I'd heard about people talking about Indian food being really heavy, and I just never got it. And then when I went for a curry in university in Kent, I thought, now I get it, because actually it wasn't how we eat at home. And many, many years later, when I worked in an Indian restaurant, I actually identified why it wasn't. I mean, restaurant food is never the same as home food, but especially in India. So I realized actually what the Brits eat as Indian food, what they call a curry, is nothing to do with the way we eat at home. And we eat food that's much fresher and more fragrant and much tastier than restaurant food. Anyway, so that was my aha moment, but nothing happened for many, many years after. I left university, I worked in small businesses because that's what I thought I wanted to do. I hated it. I hated being in an office and juggling the supplier, the business plan, the accounts, and I thought, I hate this. And I would go home at night and I would cook. And I said to my mum, I know you've been hounding me to cook for 20 years, but now I want to cook. I want to learn everything that we eat at home because I want to write a book for me, and if I have children, it's going to be a heritage for us. It's going to be something that we're going to keep going forward because I grew up in London, and if I had children, I assumed they would, so they'd be even more removed from India, and I wanted them to have proper Indian food. So I started writing the book, and at the time I stopped doing what I was doing, and I thought, God, I love this, and I really don't like that. And I don't have a mortgage, and I don't have children. This is the time to make a career change. So I made that choice in my sort of mid-20s. And I thought, that's it, I'm going to work in food. I love food. People would come around, and all of a sudden, we never went to restaurants. Everyone was always coming over to mine. I was like, no, you have to come over, I'm cooking. And at some point, someone said, the food's really great. Why don't you open a restaurant? And I thought, well, I don't know if I'm ready to open a restaurant, but actually, I would love to write a cookery book. So I did go to, Books for Cooks, which is this little boutique cookbook shop in Notting Hill. And I said, I've got this great idea to do healthy Indian cooking, because that was what I was eating those days. And I thought, this is brilliant. And they said, it's great. No one's done it. You must do it. And I thought, hey, I will. I was very naive. This was also before the internet was that prevalent, and I didn't know what to do. And I went to the library, and I researched all the cookbooks with all the best-looking cookbooks and wrote down all the names of the publishers, and I got the manual handbook out, and I found who to submit to. Anyway, one thing led to the other, and my first book came out. It did take 2 years, but I just kept believing that this book had to be successful, because in England, we love Indian food, but actually we don't understand it properly, and we all complain about how heavy it is, so there's got to be a market for proper Indian food, which is much lighter. Couple of years later, the BBC came knocking on my door, and they said, we want to find someone to be the face of Indian food. Could not believe they had knocked on my door. I didn't understand. I actually asked my producer many, many months later, saying, but why me? But why me? And he just said, just stop asking. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Do your voiceovers. So I did. But that kind of kept me on this journey of Indian food. And actually, the brilliant thing about food is it's such a wonderful environment to work in, because everyone has something positive to say about it. Everyone has wonderful memories about it. And when you talk about food of your home and of your origin, that's even more so, the case even more so. So I did my BBC Two series, and then I became more recognizable. I mean, I don't know if that's the case now because it's been many, many years, but I'd be stopped on the street and people would say, I had this wonderful dish when I was visiting Goa. Where can I eat it? And the truth of the matter is, over the years, I've researched what you can eat, and you couldn't really eat a lot of proper Indian food in Indian restaurants. And having worked in Indian restaurants, I understood why, because you have 3 or 4 sets of generic sauces. When you come in, they fry up some fresh spices, taste yummy. They add the sauce, they add the protein, and they send it out to you, which is why, A, there's so much fat in the food, because there's several processes going on, and B, how everything slightly tastes murky. And that's when I went back to the supermarket, and I thought, it's been a long time, and nothing has changed. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to do the Spice Tailor. I want to do a business where I put proper Indian food on the shelves. That was the plan. It wasn't a business plan. It was a mission. It was I need to do it. It was a bee in my bonnet. So I kept talking about it to my husband, and he said, well, get a business partner. Now, even though I studied business, I knew my limitations, and I had a career, and I had children, and I thought setting up and starting a new business, it's the toughest thing you're ever going to do. It really is. And I just knew I couldn't do it alone by myself. So for those of you who have business partners, and I know you do, we talked about this earlier, I feel like a business partner is a bit like having another husband, or is being in another marriage, because you're with them all day and night, you're arguing about certain things, you're with them in the future, and your fortune depends on it. So I thought, well, I don't need another husband, because one is enough. So I hounded my husband, who's in the audience, to become my business partner. So my husband had already started 2 businesses, so he was already someone who I thought he would know what he's doing. And so I hounded him for 18 months, and I remember the moment where he said, fine, I'll help you. I thought, yes. 6 weeks later, I went upstairs and I said, let's not do it, we're going to get divorced. Honestly, we can't do it. And he said, it's too late, we've invested money. And so we did it. And it's the Spice Tailor's been going 6 years now. We're still married. And the good thing about work... Yeah, I know. It's only 6 years. 6 years, I know, that's true. The good thing about working with your husband, if you do, is that you trust them implicitly. And you both have the same goal of making this company the best company in the world. No shortcuts, no compromises. And also when the children are ill, you can just say, the children are ill. And no one says, well, why are you leaving home? Why are you leaving work again? So having got a business partner, I thought, now, how do we make these wonderful recipes that I feel like I have at home into a proper product? Now, I think that's a problem that everyone goes through. And all I knew, and I knew nothing about producing and manufacturing food, but all I knew is I wanted it to be in India. India has the best tasting vegetables and spices, the freshest you can get. You know, it's literally from the farm. And I had tasted vegetables in England, and I've done the taste test. Tomato here, tomato there. We've got to manufacture in India. And then having a chat, and this is how sometimes things happen, right? Some things are very, very planned, and some things happen organically. Having a chat with a friend at lunch, she said, well, my brother-in-law has a factory near Bombay, and he does food. Go visit him. So my husband went out to visit, and we met them, and we thought, that's great. We've got a partner now. And it took us 18 months to get it right, because actually when you manufacture something and you package it, and I wanted everything to be natural, so there's nothing artificial in any of my products, and I wanted it to be that way, and I wanted them to cook it the way I cooked at home. So I said, it's got to be layers of flavors. You can't throw everything in the kettle the way they do in many factories, because you won't have the layers. So put the spices in first. I was almost like the invisible person of the shoulder. Now, the onions are not fried enough. That needs more flavor. So really, only an Indian factory would have put up with me, because they would have understood it. So it took us 18 months. There were points where I thought we'd never get there, but we did. And at the end of it, we had a lovely range of sauces. And they're exactly what I wanted them to be. Of course, you need to be commercial. I had to have a butter chicken. I had to have a chicken tikka masala, even though I vowed never to have anything that's not really Indian. I had to have a korma, but they both exist in India in different versions. But after that, I was really excited to talk about like the Kerala coconut curry and the southern pepper curry and all these wonderful flavors that they have around India. So we had our products, took them to the supermarkets. Our first supermarket was Waitrose. Now, I had done a book signing in Waitrose at Christmas time as part of their Christmas day at the head office. And so I knew the head buyer, and she greeted me. She's like, Anjum, you know I love you. And I'm like, great, I love you too. Loving, buy my products. But she's like, I love you, but you know, this fixture that you're looking at, it's very saturated. It's run by billion-dollar companies. I'm really sorry. I just don't want you to get your hopes up. And literally having spent 8 months getting the packaging right, and 8 months getting the packaging right, 18 months getting the product right, my heart just sunk. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a good idea, and I'm never going to get in for the wrong reasons. She tasted the products, and she took us. And 4 months later, we were in. And to me, that just really, it really reinforced the fact that actually, if you have a good product, even if all the odds are stacked up against you, and you're going against the likes of ABF and Premier Foods, that actually there is a chance you'll get into the supermarkets. Being at Waitrose was fantastic. They were very supportive, and we proved ourselves there. So we grew faster than anyone else. We actually grew the category. The buyer said so in the grocer, said in the spice sellers, the only people growing the Indian category. And that got us into Sainsbury's and Tesco's, although we had tried, but they weren't as easy to get into at the time. So I suppose we're now in all the supermarkets, most of the supermarkets, I think, if not all, by the end of the year, in England. And at some point, several years ago, someone said, oh, you should go to Australia. Why? Because entrepreneurs never make their lives easy, ever. And my husband called someone. He had a contact. He called him, and within 6 months, we were in Coles, which is the second largest, biggest supermarket in Australia. There's only 2 large ones there. So it's a much easier market to navigate because you only have 2 big customers. So we got into Coles. I went there. I remember going there and cooking for the directors and the buyers and everything. And no one knew what Indian food was. They didn't even know. They weren't even where we are. But again, the flavors stood out. We didn't have a big budget. We tried to be clever with the money we had. We tried to do social digital media. I don't think we did it very well, which is one of my regrets. But we tried to use all my books and every opportunity I had to, launch a book, go to Australia, meet the buyer, meet the journalist. Let's keep talking about Indian food. Let's get everyone excited about Indian food, and they'll find us on the shelves. We are now the category leaders in both supermarkets in Australia. So I'm very proud about that. I guess we're going into Canada this month. We're trying the same sort of thing, and that's pretty much where we're at in terms of growth. We've had to be smart with our money. So instead of hiring lots of people in England, we literally, until 1 year ago, bear in mind we've been going 6 years, have had 3 full-time people. 2 of them are us. 1 is our PA. The rest have been in India. And it's a great time that we live in, because actually you can have a whole office working in a different country, and with Skype and all sorts of great stuff that goes on with technology, which all goes really above my head because I'm just a cook. We manage to run our businesses. We have insight teams there, which I think is invaluable. If you go to your buyer with really good insight, you almost have irrefutable evidence about why they need to buy you. And actually we've seen that with every supermarket who, you think they're so on top of their thing that the category buyer and everyone will know what they're doing. And then you walk in with saying, this is what's happening. And they say, God, can you send that to me? I didn't realize. So we have really great insight. We spend a lot on quality control. I think if your product does not hit it in quality, you won't last very long. You're almost as good as your last source in my scenario. So we spend a lot on that. So our office is in India. We manufacture in India. In the next year, we're trying to build our own factory. There's always a small problem of cash flow. But we've done what we needed to get where we are. We've talked about crowdfunding, but haven't gone there yet, so maybe we'll have a chat later. So that's the Spice Tailor and where we're at. I wanted to say a bit about things I would do, if I could do it again, what I would do right. Because I think it's not all smooth, and there's things you learn along the way. I actually gave a chat to a bunch of 14-year-olds in my daughter's school. They had a carousel day where they had different people come and talk about their careers and everything. And someone said, was it all smooth sailing? Because when you've done something right, everyone thinks, God, that's really easy. And you think, no, you keep getting beaten down and you keep learning and you keep doing it better next time. So some of the things I would do better is protect my brand. I tried to trademark the packaging. We were the only people to do the packaging in the way we did, which is sort of with the spices separate and the marinade and the sauces, so that actually the person at home would cook Indian food the way I would cook it, with the spices first, and there's an education piece around it. I couldn't trademark it, and now all of our competitors are copying it, which is very, very difficult, because if you're ever in a food brand, there's two things you know that are the scariest is if the supermarket copies it, and if your biggest competitors who have billions of dollars copies it. But we've been very lucky that so far they haven't got the taste right. And I think that comes down to passion. I think a brand is like your child. It is your baby. It needs nurturing, it needs passion, it needs love, and it takes all your money, everything else like all the rest of the children do. And I think if you are a small brand, that is what you give to your company. That is what you give to your brand. And a lot of big brands look to small brands for innovation because actually they've slightly lost that passion for exactly what they're doing. I mean, that's my impression and opinion. I'm sure there are many out there who absolutely love what they do. I think, one of the big challenges we've had also is recruiting the right people. It's very difficult when you're a small business to recruit the right people because you want someone who's absolutely fantastic, who's going to show you how it's done. And they've worked for 6 amazing companies, and then you want to say, come to our small company, but you have to muck in because it's a small company. You can't just do what you were doing and have 3 people working below you. So that is always a challenge, but we've been quite lucky that we've got some good people and we're looking for more. And I think perhaps what we've done, which has been really useful if all of you are doing something similar and doing it on a budget, is we've got a great group of a board of directors. So I remember the first one we got who's introduced to us, this lovely guy who's semi-retired from Mars. He was amazing. And he was the first, and he would come round, and our board meetings were at home because we didn't have an office. And for the first year or so, I'm pretty sure he felt like he was the counsellor and he was mediating between husband and wife because we argued about everything and we hadn't quite figured out our working relationship at that point. Like, where are the boundaries? What's your bit and what's my bit? But we soon got a great board of directors, and I think that has been invaluable because to have a mentor or people who know exactly what they're doing and have done it for 20, 30 years and can do it without thinking and tell you the pitfalls of an industry, it's an invaluable thing to have. And we approached people and they accepted and they came on board. So I feel like it's not the most difficult thing to do, but find people who actually will add value to where you're at and where you want to go. So where are you lacking? Are you lacking in production capabilities? Do you need someone who's great at marketing? Find the right person and ask them if they will be a non-exec or advisor of some sort. So that is good. And finally, we didn't invest in an office space till a year ago. We didn't think it was important, but actually I do think it's immensely valuable that everyone who's there does work as a team and get proper face time, because otherwise things can go on for much too long. Probably a bit like my speech, actually. I was asked to say, what makes a brilliant brand? I think it's one of those things that the people behind it make it a brilliant brand. But I wanted to say that I think a brand needs to be like your child. I said it already, that it literally needs all your attention. So if you don't have all the attention to give it, I think you need to probably wait for a time when you can. I think it's really good to be honest with your customer. The consumer is super savvy. It's very easy for them to complain right now. Touch a button, tweet, done. And I think they're like a really genuine, honest story. So, and I think they can spot a fake story a mile away. I think it's really good to listen to everyone around you, but you need to trust your instincts. I remember meeting someone from Sainsbury's who was very high up who said, your products are never going to work because if your products work, then all the jars that your product is now replacing, what would we do with all that production capabilities? And actually, so therefore, the odds are stacked up against you. It was an awful thing to hear from someone who's quite high up and who's got 20 years of knowledge in the industry. But I thought, no, I disagree, because actually it comes down to taste. And when you jar something, it's not going to have the same flavor as my packaging. So I'm glad I didn't listen to him and get disheartened. I've said, know your strengths and weaknesses. I think that's really important. And also always just stay really true to the product. Don't let the finance people cut corners. That is it. Just lastly, to round off, I just want to say that it's probably the best time ever to launch your own food company. I think the supermarkets are the most receptive they've ever been to interesting new brands. Social digital media is an amazing leveler where you can play on a bigger field than you can probably afford. Also, things like having access to information that the British Library has, which helps you tremendously with insight and getting research, which previously would have cost tens of thousands of pounds and would have been quite forbidding. And also crowdfunding, of course. You can crowdfund anything. I know someone who's crowdfunded cookbooks. I intend to do that one day, maybe somewhere nice like Jamaica. Anyway, thank you very much, and I hope that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think those positive words of wisdom have gone down a treat, actually. You'll be pleased to know the gentleman from Sainsbury's is here in the audience to see you. No, he's not there. Just on that note, actually, you mentioned that it was easier to pitch to Waitrose than it was to Tesco's and Sainsbury's. So what was the approach to Waitrose that worked? And in particular, I'm thinking of people that are thinking of pitching and they've got an idea.
No, Waitrose at the time were just very open to new brands. They were very food-led, whereas a lot of the other supermarkets were bottom-line led. So it was like, how many products are you going to sell? If I'm going to take someone off the shelves, how many are you going to be able to sell? Can you make up that money? Waitrose didn't do that. It was about the consumer. Having said that, that was 6 years ago, and actually even now the supermarkets are changing. They're all changing. You'll get more receptiveness from all of them now, because they're all realised that actually it's all about the consumer.
So hopefully the other ones, whether it's Morrison's, have to name them all, otherwise I don't want to pick on any of them. Tesco's or Sainsbury's.
I'm not naming anybody anymore.
No, indeed. What do you think is the most cost-effective marketing tools if you're starting out, maybe your first port of call to use in food and drink?
Well, I think it has to be social media because it's free. I mean, you literally can start an entire campaign if you're clever about it and you know what you want and you know who you're going to target through it. I mean, you can send your samples to like 50 bloggers and get hits. And I think sampling is a fantastic way of, it costs you money, but it doesn't cost, I mean, depending which way you do it. It is fantastic because actually if you get your product in front of the consumer and they taste it and they like it, then you have a new customer for life.
And how about travelling and getting experiences? So, everybody obviously wants to have an authentic story, and we've been hearing all the authentic stories this evening.
Yeah.
But do you think going out there, spreading your wings, obviously within limited budgets, but experiencing different cultures, different countries, helps you deliver an authentic food business? Or do you have to go to that extreme?
No, I think every individual has a different path to where they get to. And I don't think it's about travelling. You might never leave your town and just come up with a really great idea, which, because what's happening around the world now with social media. So I don't think you have to travel. I mean, that's a lot of time and cost. But I mean, if you can travel, it's always advisable, but not necessarily for the success of a food brand.
And how about having someone like yourself that had the publicity, had the television series on the BBC, been on the Steve Wright afternoon show? I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Has that helped or been a hindrance to you?
Do you know what? I don't think it's helped because I think ultimately if your product's not good, it's not going to stay on the shelves. I don't think it's been a hindrance. Yeah. But I do know that my husband, who had done a food business before, said, actually, I could never get the buyer on the line, but you can. Yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I think there was a little bit more, they were just a little bit nicer when I was in the room.
Okay.
Were nice. Now it's all business.
I just want to clarify, chicken tikka masala is not Indian?
No.
Oh, that's it. I've learned something new tonight.
It's a variant.
Okay.
It's a variant of butter chicken.
Okay.
So we left it in the range.
Yes, I think many of us have learned a new lesson tonight, and that was one of them. Thank you very much to Anjum, everybody. Well, our final keynote speaker this evening is Ryan Kohn. If I got that right, great. Who's the co-founder of Propercorn, which I can imagine gets mixed up all the time. The UK's fastest growing premium popcorn company, helped by the fact that my children eat copious amounts of the stuff, particularly my daughter. Yes, she switched to the brand. She's a vegan as well, so she's got very, very high standards. So you'll be pleased to know that she's one of your fans. Since launching the business in 2011 with his best friend and business partner, Ryan has propelled Propercorn into one of the fastest growing foodie brands in the UK, stocked everywhere, I believe, from cafes to supermarkets, and now sold overseas when I last looked in 10 countries. Yep, fabulous. So how has he done it? Oh, clap. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Lovely. I love it. So how do they do it? What's the secret of their success? Well, here to reveal some tips and ideas, please give a very warm welcome to the co-founder of Propercorn, Ryan Kohn.
First of all, thank you to the British Library for having me, and a big shout out to the whole of the UK who are apparently watching this.
Millions of viewers.
And thank you as well to the other guest speakers. I found what you said really insightful, and I'm absolutely starving now, and all I can think about is eating Indian food with cauliflower rice and a beer. But I'll try and soldier on.
And some popcorn after.
Well, but at the moment, not so much that. But in terms of, I guess, this kind of talk, we've only got 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. And I wanted to split it up into two sections. And I've gone to lots of kind of speaker events and seen lots of fantastic people speak on stage, and I always go along thinking I want to get that secret. That, you know, what's their secret to success? How did Richard Branson turn Virgin into a £1 billion business? And I always go there, and I never quite get that secret. As in, I don't think it necessarily exists. But what does exist, I think, is some very clear common denominators, which I think you're probably going to hear tonight, or you have already heard tonight, and I'm going to repeat a couple. And I've tried to distill that into something I call our 5 Ps. So the 5 Ps are purpose, people, passion, planet, and potential. So starting with the purpose. So every company, I think, needs a purpose. We need our why. We need something that is much bigger than just selling your product or service. And I think this is a really important thing, because this is what is going to get you up in the morning, get you into work, and also motivate your team. So at Propercorn, our purpose is that we believe in living a life done properly. And to add a bit of context to that, if doing popcorn is a little thing, doing it well is a big thing. We celebrate the beauty of doing these simple things properly. And that for us is something that runs through everything we do. So if you take our packs, rather than just going to a branding agency and saying, hey, come up with a nice design that looks pretty on shelf, we actually worked with an artist to hand illustrate the drawings to bring our flavours to life. The reason I put the cases here is because I wanted to reference them as well, in that when we were designing our cases, we thought rather than just do a brown box with a logo slapped on the front, we're going to do kind of a proper suitcase that has real vibrancy, that stands out in store. And the result of that is that our compliancy in stores went up by about 60 to 70% when we launched them, because you can forget about a brown box in the corner, but you can't forget about a bright pink or yellow box which is sat there. And so this done properly ethos runs through everything we do, and it is about the simple things and doing them really well. So I really think that if you're starting a business, if you have a business, that's kind of point number one. What is your purpose? Second thing, like everyone else has said so far, is people. We pay so much attention to finding the right people. This was from our summer party last year, and we pay so much emphasis on that. And I think it really is so important that you surround yourself with brilliant people. Your business will be successful. It's honestly one of the most important factors you can do. And once you have brilliant people, you need to retain them. And so we pay huge amounts of attention to the culture that we create in Propercorn. So things like we provide breakfast and lunch every day for our team, which sounds very extravagant, but it means we get to sit down every day and have a meal together, chat. It means I'm sat down next to someone different from a different department every single day. And it builds these amazing bonds and relationships. Every single person in our business has share options. Once you've been with our business for 2 years, you get unlimited holiday. So there were all these things that we do to create this wonderful culture. And I'm telling you now, kind of having that red hot culture in your business, again, I think is a real key lever to success. Passion. So you can't fake passion. At least I don't think you can. And in terms of Propercorn, you know, we have a very, very authentic story. Cassandra, my business partner, she used to work for an advertising firm in London. And every day around 3 o'clock, someone would go out and buy lots of chocolate, cake or biscuits. And if you sat anywhere close to that person when they came back, you'd end up eating your day's worth of calories in about 10 minutes. And then come away feeling really guilty. So at the time, the snacking spectrum was kind of rice cakes or apples on one side, and then chocolates and biscuits and cakes on the other, and nothing really in between. So she went home and spoke to her mum and said, I've got this idea of doing this flavoured popcorn brand. And her mum reminded her that one of the last things her father had bought her before he sadly passed away when she was about 16 was an old school popcorn machine. So she was like, right, that's all the serendipity I need to start my own business. And she literally went in the next day, handed in a notice, had no idea what she was doing, had no experience in FMCG, but had the guts to do that. Where I come in is that we've been friends for a long time. She used to date one of my best friends. They're all friends now, so it's all good. And I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was 18. Started my first business at university, and thankfully all the businesses I've been involved in have gone well. And I'm also a big, I've got a huge passion for charity, and I've also worked in that sector as well. So we kind of put our heads together, and fast forward, 7 years since we started working on it, but 5.5 years ago since we launched. We now sell 3 million bags a month. We're in 10 countries. We have a team of 40 people. and we have the same passion that we had when we started that business, if not more. And I think it's really, really important. You can't fake that passion. We'll notice it if you do fake it. And so, again, make sure if you're starting a business, you're starting something that you really believe in and that you can get behind. Ooh. So, planet. I think we're in a day and age now where we cannot ignore our responsibility to the planet. Like, we really, really cannot do this. And I think that we can't also rely on the guys at the top to kind of take the lead on this. And I think as business owners, we have a responsibility, if you're starting a business, if you have a business, to really be thinking about kind of building that responsibility to the planet and people within your DNA of your business. I think something like 15 of the 16 hottest years on record have happened in the 21st century. Over the last year, we've lost half of the Great Barrier Reef, which is an amazing place. I dived there when I was 18, and I'm saddened to think that it's gone. So it's something that we really need to focus on, and we need to focus on it collectively. But the good news is that all the big guys now, in terms of the Tesco's, the Waitrose, and Sainsbury's of this world, this is massively high on their agenda too. They're all getting scrutinised. There is so much transparency now. And if you're taking the lead on this, it is seen in such a good light. And if you don't take the lead on it, I genuinely think you'll get left behind. And so I really do urge people to think about this when they're starting a business. And lastly, potential. You can do the four things really, the four previous P's really well. But if there is no opportunity for your business, then you're not going to get very far. And when we launched Propercorn, the healthy snacking market was kind of on this cusp of some real kind of expansion. Snacking in general has always been on the increase because people are time poor. People snack in between meals now. If you work at a popcorn business, you just snack all day. And the healthy snacking market has been one of the key drivers. And the wonderful thing about popcorn is that we all eat it. It doesn't matter if you go to Japan, if you go to China, if you go to the US, when you go to the cinema, everyone eats popcorn already. And all we're saying to people is, hey, that snack that you eat in the cinema, why don't you try having it as a snack kind of alongside a salad or lunch or in between meals? And so very simply, the 5 Ps, I think, I've tried to kind of distill generally what I think are the real key common denominators that people really need to think about and focus when they're starting a business. And I think if you do that, you'll be on your way to kind of creating a very strong and successful business. But one other thing that we all do as people is that we all fuck up. To be frank, we do. We all make mistakes. And I think that when I go to these talks, people very rarely talk about the mistakes that they make. And I think I want to break that trend. We've done plenty, but I think it's how you adapt and how you build on those mistakes which are also going to define your business. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. So to give you a few examples of the mistakes we've made, the first one being shelf life. So despite some business experience previously, neither Cass nor me had any experience within FMCG. So when we launched Propercorn, we've got 6 months shelf life on our product. We assumed that we could sell that product up until its last day to our customers. And we had to satisfy minimum order quantities. So our first order was about 80,000 bags of popcorn that we were planning to sell. And it got to month 3 of selling, and we started getting rejections. And people were saying, "No, we can't take your popcorn." And we were like, "Why not? We've got a 3-month shelf life still." "Yeah, but it needs to have 2/3 of your initial shelf life amount." And we were like, "Fucking hell! What the fuck are we gonna do?" I think at that point we still had about 40,000 bags to sell, and we were a business that was 3 months old. And generally that could have taken us under. So we literally stopped everything. It was just me, Cass, and we had one intern as well. And we just got on the phones and we just sold, and we just brokered deals. We just offered promos. We did whatever we could to shift the stock, and we did. And it was one of the things that gave us a huge kickstart. And so that mistake we managed to turn into a massive positive. And people often ask, how did you get that distribution so quickly? It's because we fucked up. Another point to make, this is more of a kind of logistical nightmare that one of our mistakes was, I'm a bit of a cheeseball, and it got to Valentine's Day, and it was our second year anniversary, and we decided to change the Propercorn on our packs to Proper Love. And thought, great, that's a nice idea. We paid for these new packs and got them produced, but we didn't have enough budget to change the cases. So we just thought, well, that'd be fine. We'll just put them in the same cases and, we'll just deliver them to the right spot. And when the orders came in for deliveries to go to, I think we were being quite specific with where we wanted the Proper Love to go. So I think it was only Whole Foods, Planet Organic, Leon, Tesco and Waitrose that we were pushing them to. And we spoke to our couriers and said, right, can you deliver the Proper Love stock to, those people? And they were like, which one is the Proper Love stock? And we were like, well, oh shit, okay. So off I went up to the warehouse and spent about 3 days opening up cases and being like, Proper Love, Propercorn, Proper Love, Propercorn. But we made it. We got there in the end. And as I say, it was a mistake, but we were bold and we did this, quite brave thing to change the front of your packs in your 2-year-old business, and people don't even know who Propercorn is, let alone Proper Love. And it was great. We did get lovely feedback. It was a kind of, I think, a really successful campaign for us at the time. And the last mistake I would mention is that as we kind of expanded our distribution into Europe, we thought we could save a bit of money rather than using kind of proper translators to translate our ingredients and back of pack and all those things. We decided just to use friends and family to do that, who could speak those languages. And one of our flavours, the one on top there, is a fiery Worcester sauce and sun-dried tomato. And what we ended up having was horny Worcester sauce and sun-dried tomato, which I think should have sold really well, but I would have bought it maybe, I don't know. Yeah, we as soon as we kind of realised this mistake, we then drastically did another print run and managed to rectify it. But I guess the learning there is do not cut corners, especially when it comes to your packaging and your product. So that's it, I guess. In terms of, this talk, I wanted to try and distill it into really kind of clear messages in terms of the 5 Ps and making sure that we do all, acknowledge the mistakes, we create a culture where we actually embrace the mistakes and learn from them as best as we can. So, yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Do I need the bleeping machine again? I don't know. They've got them all started on Twitter now. They're all at it. So there we go. No, but they've covered it up. We love it. We love it. Now, if you think about Propercorn, when I was thinking about you coming tonight, it's just one of a proliferation of newer brands, because my children have gone through them all, but you're their brand of choice at the moment. Metcalfe's, Tyrrell's, Propercorn, which seem to have emerged in an increasingly crowded market. So how do you stay ahead of the competition or differentiate yourself from the competition? Is this something that keeps you awake at night?
So I think it's interesting. I was at an awards dinner last night or 2 nights ago, and I was sat next to the current MD of Innocent, and we were talking about both categories, and his juice category being very competitive, and also I was talking about our popcorn category being competitive. And one of the things he said is, when you're in that space and you've been successful and you'll continue to be successful, just remember the things that made you successful, which really stood out to me as like a really nice thought. And that the things like Proper Love and those kind of like bold things, it's so easy as you grow as a business to then you have to start putting in some systems and things like that. And what you don't want to do is put in systems and lose that kind of essence of creativity and boldness. And it just really kind of like rang true with me. And Propercorn definitely hasn't lost that. And I think it's the reason we seem to be winning the battle at the moment with our competitors. And so I guess for me, my advice would be just remember what makes you different. Remember what sets you apart. And as you grow, just keep that essence and don't get too bogged down with the systems. Make sure systems are there for efficiency. But if they start hindering creativity and progress, then I would take a look at that.
I'm just wondering if you give us an insight into the audience when you're having that dialogue with investors. What kind of challenging questions are they asking you? Any insights and any advice that you can give to people on how to cut corners there, to give them the answers, basically?
So, I think with investors, so we went through a process. It was, I guess, our first main one, middle of last year, where we took on investment from the Innocent founders and a company called Piper, who invest in lots of kind of cool consumer brands. But they're minority investors, and Sandra and I are still the majority shareholders. But what I think that whole process, what it taught us, and what I guess what you have to think about is from the moment any potential investor walks through your door, you are on sales mode. You are literally talking up, you're making sure everything looks beautiful in the office, making sure everything is great. Every opportunity to drop in a little, did you know that we're selling some Metcalfe's 2-to-1, or we're the fastest growing snack brand in Europe, or whatever it may be. You just need to make sure you're constantly selling. And in terms of the questions that are being asked, be prepared, know your numbers. You definitely need to know that. But I would also just say be yourself, because what investors look for is people to invest in. And you can have good numbers, but if they don't think you're an investable person, they won't do it. And that they're also in some ways selling themselves as much as you are selling yourself. And especially if you've got a successful product and you have a lot of people who are keen to invest, you're in some ways the dragon. You're the one who can then be like, well, what are you going to do for me, Mr. Branson?
Yeah. Isn't it great to be able to turn the tables?
Yeah.
Have you been on Dragon's Den, by the way?
No, I haven't been on Dragon's Den.
Didn't have to go, did you?
No, we didn't. Okay. Actually, when we started, one of our competitors did go on it, and they were called Love to Pop, and they don't exist anymore. But it's funny because, when we started, they were like, right, they were the quirky other alternative popcorn brand, and it was us and them, and I'm glad we won.
So you think a long future ahead?
Definitely, yeah, very, very exciting future ahead, and loving every second of the journey.
Just want to check they are still in their sell-by date, are they?
They are still.
Good. So they're okay to consume.
I didn't check, but I'm hoping.
So. Ryan, everybody. Thank you, Ryan. Well, just before I open up to the audience, I'm just going to invite very quickly onto stage. So give a round of applause to Kitty, who's from the Mintel group. Kitty, everybody. Hello. And just to formally introduce Kitty, Kitty is head of the UK Food, Drink and Food Service Research at the Mintel Group. And if you don't know the Mintel Group, they are a market intelligence agency that provides research and consulting solutions to industry, government and academic institutions in the UK. And we were having a chat earlier. Usually it's for people with bigger budgets, but that's where the British Library comes in so beautifully, the Business and IP Centre, doesn't it, Kitty?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we'd love to be available for any budget, but the reality is that creating that research, putting the necessary resources in place is expensive. So unfortunately, Mintel reports can be a bit on the steep side for a startup. But that's why we're really pleased that we are able to work with British Library, which means that, say, the 50-odd food and drink reports that my team do every year, from beer to cheese to health eating habits to snacking habits, those are all available for any British Library users to come and see the roughly 60 pages of report and a long consumer appendix for free.
And it's well worth it. That's in the Business and IP Centre, so you just need to... All of them. There we go. So all the reports. Have you got that there? All of the library, sorry. All of the libraries.
Wow.
So all 13 that we've been talking about tonight.
Business and IP
libraries.
centres.
Brilliant. All of the Business and IP Centres. So wherever you are in the country, go and check that out tomorrow. Let's see if that is a fact, and it's true. I'm sure it is. So what are the key consumer trends at the moment in the food and drink industry that the audience here should know about, or those watching online?
I can't not mention the big one, which is there is a squeeze, income squeeze ahead. It really is. There are so many food and drink trends going on at any one point, but the one that we can't get through a day without mentioning it is that, as I'm sure you've all seen the headlines, at the moment, inflation's outpacing income growth, and we're expecting, the coming year ain't going to get any better. If anything, it will get worse. People will have that bit less money in their pocket at the end of the month, every month. And it's again how do you stay on the menu when people are having to think twice about their food budgets? But there are definitely opportunities there. That's not to say, okay, that's it, everyone's, no one's going to buy anything. The great thing about food and drink is that we all need to eat and drink every day. So there are opportunities both in terms of being a good value option, helping people save money. But what we also learned at the last recession was that people are still looking for products, for foods, for drinks that really offer them an experience or offer them something that's really valuable for them. And that's not necessarily the cheapest price. It is about offering value for them. So sometimes it's that brilliant beer that just gives them that experience. It's that affordable treat, but they're happy to pay an extra 50p or an extra £1 because they feel that extra 50p or £1 really gives them a really valuable experience. Or it can be that flavour experience, or it can be about that beautiful convenience. So again, it's fitting that lifestyle and offering that value for money, but expect there to be that added scrutiny because people will be that more squeezed. So you really have to be relevant.
So in terms of that cost inflation, very quickly on that, if they're less disposable income, are people, do you think, still happy though to spend a bigger proportion then as a result of their disposable income on food and drink if they are getting that experience? Because we love a story, we love an authentic story, and we love experiences at the moment. Do you see that continuing?
It's definitely going. You can't think of consumers as being, right, I've got one hat on 24 hours a day. People are very much kind of looking at it and going, okay, well, I don't really care about the breakfast cereals I eat, so I'm happy to buy the own label breakfast cereals. That's fine. But I'm a beer lover, and I'm not going to in any way dilute my beer experience. Some others might say, I don't give a damn about the beer, but I really, really love, I don't know, my favourite chocolate or my favourite ice cream. So expect people to cut corners and save money in areas that for them personally don't add value, but stick to those favourites where they really feel strongly about it, where that's their treat, that they will continue to spend in those areas.
And what is it about consumers at the moment that they want from brands? What are they interested in when it comes to brands?
I think I'm repeating some of the points that were raised
Maybe
by the
Very
speakers
quickly,
earlier
then.
today, but I would say it's about being relevant and it is about being unique. And unfortunately, what that means depends from one individual to another, but it is about fitting that consumer lifestyle, whether it is about health or it's about being a foodie, and it is about differentiating yourself. You have to be able to deliver something that is different to what others in the market are delivering, and it can often be taste. But if you're hitting that taste that no one else can deliver, or you're hitting that texture, you're hitting that right balance of a permissible treat, you have to have something unique.
Do you get to eat lots of different things as part of your job and drink? Say yes. So it must be a dream job, only if you wish.
I wish.
You just crunch the data.
Unfortunately, when you do what I do, you become quite picky and you're kind of going, ooh, is that worth the calories? That's not worth the calories.
And what's interesting actually about the research that's available in all the libraries that have the business and IP centres is the trends on B2B, which I think is really important for the audience here, so they understand about bulk, selling in bulk directly to businesses, including supermarkets, distribution chains, and so on, to inform their approach and strategy. I mean, how critical is that to understand those figures?
It's, as again, repeating some of the earlier speakers, but it is about understanding the journey. So yes, you are selling to the end consumer, absolutely, but along the way you have to sell to the business owner. You have to understand what's going to make the product work for them. But obviously part of that story is explaining how that product is going to hit it home with the consumer. You have to get your facts right about the whole journey along the way.
Okay, Kitty, thank you very much. So I'm now going to go over to the audience now. Oh, someone wants to give you a clap there. I think it's the politest audience I've ever come across. Hello there, audience. So we're going to take some questions now. This lady quickly put her hand up there. So we've got a couple of roving mics around the room, and I'm going to get you to say your name and quickly where you're from or the business you'd like to set up without turning it into a major pitch, because obviously I'm trying to get through as many questions as possible. Looking lovely there, looking very glam.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the event. It was very interesting. I'm Laurence. I'm the export sales manager for Churchill's Confectionery. So I've got a question for all of you. I wanted to understand how you identify export opportunities for your business.
Wow, how do you identify export opportunities? A great question there. So let's start with you, Jem.
Right. So for my product, we did think of going around Europe and found that our product was, I think, a bit too avant-garde for quite a lot of countries here. So what we did, I think the first thing for us was looking for countries that had the same insight and the same trend. So for us, our focus is the States, because the cauliflower trend is just as big as it is here. Concerns about diabetes, obesity, everyone being more health aware, the whole culture centered around convenience. So it's looking for those parallels that help us prioritize which countries we'll go first.
Thank you, Logan.
Whoever throws the best parties.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I think it was it was very similar actually. Looking at like-minded, partners, I guess. So specific countries such as Scandinavia, they're massive, obsessive beer drinkers, the same as us British. The Germans as well. Italy, Ireland, and also we did open up to 22 countries, but we actually withdrew that, and now we still work within them, but we pulled it back to probably 4 that are very local to us, so Scandinavia, just over the channel, so we can keep the freshness, and we actually monitor where our beer is going, and the shelf life is important too. So
sure. Anything different on that, Anjum? Because obviously you're going to be going into, was it Canada you mentioned?
No, well, I think sometimes things happen organically as well. So we ended up in Australia, done quite well there. And then we realised actually, what are we looking for? We're looking for people who want Indian food or just like good flavours and are experimental in their food. America is a tough one to conquer, so I'm not ready to do that yet, if we ever would. But Canada seemed like a nice way to get to North America with a similar profile of immigration of Indians and also quite foodie and interested in quality.
Now, I haven't mentioned the dreaded B word, but it's not an expletive, but it might be Brexit. So has that had any impact on your decision-making when it comes to export opportunities?
No, it hasn't really at the moment.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on.
I think what we're all looking for is some clarity on what that's going to look like, and I don't think we can make any decisions right now for something that we'll probably find out about in the next 2 years. So at the moment, it's kind of business as usual. But to your first point, and I agree with everything that everyone said, and just to add to that, one thing that's helped us in terms of establishing which export partners or which countries we should move into is we created a kind of a demands and wishes for what we look for when we go into those territories, and part of that is obviously the size of the opportunity, how big for us the snacking market is there a big crisp market, is healthy snacking on the increase, what is the popcorn market. So we have all these kind of like, right, snacking growth must be over X, healthy snacking must be over Y. And from our point of view, we have a distributor model where we work with different distributors in each country. And so we have to find a brilliant distributor. And if we don't find a brilliant distributor, we won't go there. So essentially what we're looking for is the perfect storm, but you decide what the storm parameters are. And that's something that's been really helpful for us in terms of establishing ourselves in new territories.
Hopefully that's given you some good ideas.
Thank
there.
you.
Do we have opportunities within the BIPC as well for export opportunities? Do you have a speaker that does any workshops there at the moment? Maybe that could be an opportunity. Isabel?
Thank you, Nadine. We're actually talking to the Department for International Trade about coming and doing some workshops on Brexit.
Yeah.
And we had a speaker also from the Institute of Export recently.
Leslie.
Leslie Batchelor. It's not part of our regular programme yet, but we hope it will be.
Okay. So I hope that's given you some food for
space.
thought. So watch this space. Hope that answered your question. Yep. Okay. Do we have any questions that have come in that have caught your eye, Claire, from around the network?
Yes, we've got lots of questions. In fact,
how long have we got?
No, I was just going to say.
Lockdown,
No. I was just going to say that someone on Twitter, 360, their account number, they asked that same question, but they asked it, how will beer exit affect your business? So I just thought I'd get that pun in for that Twitter person.
It's all right. They're working hard tonight, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got one specific one. From Sarah at GF Blogger, asking Jem around her points around health food, and she's wondering, do you think that the health market will continue to grow? And that's the one piece of advice Sarah wants to know, but everyone at the Liverpool Library screening has asked for the panellists what was the best piece of business advice you've had and who gave it to you.
Okay.
It's an old one, but a good one.
That's a lovely one. So let's start with yours then.
Right. Yes, pretty much. I think health food has a huge opportunity at the moment. I think it's a combination of governments being more aware about, like the sugar tax that was being put in and people being more conscious about what they're eating. But I also think that everyone now, health food used to be just the weird food that no one wanted to touch and it didn't taste good. And suddenly everyone now is realizing that there are some fantastic brands out there that are, leading the way and showing that healthy food can be tasty. And you read about a lot of these really successful brands, and what they do is they prioritize taste. So it's not worth coming up with something that's just healthy, but something that, gives you that taste and the satisfaction that you're looking for. So yes.
And just on that, I mean, you mentioned about transparency earlier on, Ryan. Is there a sort of a movement that the public think actually we've been a bit let down by some of the food that's been served, or we haven't had the choices that we're getting now, and that actually the public are demanding to make healthier options much more easier for us?
I think you can't get away with it anymore. I think that, with everything that's gone on with sugar, for example, we're seeing huge pressure on industries to kind of reduce their sugar levels, and that's already happened. But people are so much more savvy now about what they're eating. There's so much more information readily available, and again, I think in the same way that I spoke about the planet before, that you should take a lead. I think transparency on your actual product and what's in it, you should take a lead on that as well, because I just think it comes back to also what you were saying about honesty. I just think that if you're going to put something on the shelf, you need to be transparent about it. You need to be honest about it, and if it's bad for you, that's fine, and we all like to indulge, and that's great. But just make sure people are aware of what they're eating. Similarly, if it's going to be healthy, let's make sure it is healthy and not just kind of masked health and natural or something like that.
Because just very quickly on your packaging, you had 1 of 5 a day.
Yes.
And now we need 10, don't we? Have you got to change your packaging to 1 of 10 a day?
No, actually, we can. There's enough in there to say 2 of your 5 a day, but variation's key. So you actually need 2 vegetables in there, which will happen towards the end of this year. So
yeah, I know.
We'll get that up.
10, I mean, that is pushing. I think many people are not even hitting the 5 at the moment, but there we go. Maybe it's a nice thought. Yeah. Logan, just back to the other question. So best piece of advice you got, and from whom?
It was from a gentleman called Paul. I can't remember his last name, but it was in the first few years. And as I say, the team was pretty small then. It was pretty much myself and a couple of the other guys from the restaurant helping me out. And there was an immense amount of stress, anxiety, waking up in the middle of the night, not going to sleep, palpitations. It's something you should really do, people. But what he said was, as soon as you can, doesn't matter the salary, invest in people around you, invest in good people with experience and expertise, and you will feel that they will add so much more to your experience and to the business. And as I mentioned before, as soon as we could, it made a massive difference.
Yep, Anjum?
I was trying to think about that. I've been given so much advice by so many people. I couldn't quite hone in on one, but I think the one that I live by, so it obviously made an impression, is you need to love what you do. And I think that's really important, because if you love what you do, you enjoy going to work every day and you're the best at it you can be.
Kitty?
I couldn't think of one single piece of advice right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fair enough, isn't it? There you go. That's an answer. I can't think of one single piece of advice right now. So, Ryan, I'll pass the baton over to you.
So again, lots of brilliant snippets of advice, but one that sticks out for me recently is do less better. And that was actually Adam Ballon, one of the Innocent founders, who said that to us. I think when you're running a business, it's so easy to chase your tail. You've got so many ideas, you want to do everything, and you get really excited about every single thing. What can often happen is that you try and do everything, and you never quite do everything well, or you don't quite hit that marker. And so I guess, doing less better is about focus. It's about really prioritizing and really being quite strategic with your choices. And often it's about saying no as often as it is as often as saying yes. And so for me, that's been a real standout kind of piece of advice for us recently.
And Jen?
Yes, I think for me, the most priceless piece of advice, because I think as an entrepreneur, you're naturally bullheaded. You're obsessive and you're like, this is my idea and this is how it's going to go. You need to learn how to look at your business objectively. Learn how to step back, look at it, see what's working about it, see what's not working about it. If you saw on my slide earlier, the salad dressings, we were in 600 supermarkets and, we were doing okay. We're exporting to Costco in Canada. But we realized it was a constant uphill battle with people that were bigger than us, that, it all boiled down to how much we could promote in supermarkets and how much we could spend. And, rather than, although my whole heart was in the business and it was like absolutely heartbreaking to kind of take my foot off the pedal, you really have to learn to look at your business, see if it's working, and then see if you could change it. And going back to the other business before that, the prepared salads business, it was in Selfridges, it was in Harrods, but it wasn't scalable. So it's seeing how you could look at your business, see what you could change about it. Like the handmade salad dressings labor was high. You couldn't, it wasn't a consistent product. So we stepped back and realized that you could mass produce the freshly
the preservative-free salad dressings, and suddenly it took us to the next level. And then for the salad dressings, we realized, you know, it's not enough having cool branding and cool packaging. You need something that's truly innovative, that truly evolves the market, and that's how Cauli rice came about. So, you know, it's about being kind of having that objectivity when you're looking at your business.
Okay, so I'm just very conscious of time because we've got a networking drink. But this gentleman here has caught my eye, so I can take 2 more questions from the audience. Hello there. So we'll get a microphone to you so everybody can hear you. And I can see you've taken notes. You've written this down. Oh, have we got War and Peace?
I've gone through 4 pages. So.
You have 4 pages. Go for it.
My question is to all of you really is, how did you overcome listing fees from when you initially approached all the buyers and wholesalers? You intended to go in there with an order and to obviously sell your product, but then they say, oh, well, there's a listing fee, which could range from 500 to 10,000 and etc. So how did you overcome it so you actually got your first order in?
And just explain to people, because that's a really good point about listing fees. Who wants to just quickly take that on, what listing fees, what that refers to?
Well, so listing fees are basically the sum of money you pay a supermarket to get on shelf. So if you want to get in, say, 200 supermarkets, some categories say it's £10,000, or you get it, you know. So, but from my understanding, it's been scrapped, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I think now what people are, because of what happened with Tesco a couple of years ago, and to be honest, Tesco's were made to be the scapegoat, but they were all doing it. Everyone is now putting kind of listing fees into cost price. So if someone charged 50p initially for their product, rather than paying 100 grand listing fee on top of that, they'll just want a cheaper cost price, if that makes sense. So they'll go down to 40p, and so the retailer makes a better margin and makes their 100 grand through just selling at a better margin.
And that's right across the board now, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, you still do get lists. You know, they kind of like people disguise them in different ways as like promotional spend or marketing kind of fees and things like that. And
so would that be a case where you've obviously approached the question of the listing fees and you've kind of twisted in it a way so you can win? Because the reason why I ask is we've came off of the back of a convenience show, and you know, we was expecting, you know, orders, and which is what the case was, of a huge interest for our product. But then they say, oh, there's listing fees. And then it's like, that's the hurdle that you now have to jump now to get onto the shelves. So
the thing I would say to you is when, you, as a startup, and we still try and play this card as much as we can, you've got to play your startup card. So you've got to be hammering home the whole time that you're a small business, you don't have loads of cash. And what you can do is you can look at giving them kind of structures in your kind of joint business plan with them, which, you know, you could do things like overriders, whereby you're not paying that listing fee up front, but you're paying it linked to volume. So you can say, listen, happy to give you some cash, but I can't give it to you up front. Once we hit £100,000 turnover with you, I'm happy to give you, you know, 2, 3, 4% back, and you can build like a bit of a structure from that.
Yeah, you can definitely negotiate that. So you could also, another way of looking at it is, rather than listing fee, which just goes in their pocket, you turn it into like actual consumer promotion. So the money at least goes to something that works for your product. But negotiation is key. I mean, play the startup card. You know, we've managed to like bring our trade margin, negotiate down our trade margins, shorten the credit terms, the payment terms of supermarkets, just by trying to negotiate what you can. Don't accept. You know, when you talk to a supermarket buyer, it's really more see it as a negotiation. Rather than just taking down what they, what they tell you to do. And then also if the maths don't work out, because that's the thing about supermarkets, because everyone wants to get into supermarkets, but they're hell of expensive. And sometimes, like I remember, again, through past experience, you know, you just give whatever you can to get on the shelf, but then you find that you're not able to promote, and then you end up getting delisted anyway, and then all that money just goes down the drain. So you need to just make sure that your maths work out and negotiate to something that you can sustain.
I think that's really good advice. When's your next meeting? I'll see if they're free for you. Can you come along and hold? Has that helped you? That sounds like some great advice. And do you know what? You're so polite. You didn't even mention your product. So what is it? Very quickly. Well, it's going to be good.
It is going to be good. Our product's called Gummy Pod. It's the world's first sugar-free gum with a chewing gum integrated bin.
Oh, wow. So it's called Gummy?
Gummy Pod.
Oh, Oh, lovely. Okay, well,
I'll look
well
out
done
for
to you.
it.
Well, hopefully that's giving you some good
Thank you.
advice. So just this lady here, if you want to pass the microphone back. Are you all okay to say? To carry on with the questions. Yeah, you've got to go in a second.
Well, no, only
haven't
because
you?
apparently they said the gates close. I'm parked in the car park and they said they close at 9.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Has anybody got any
I might have to
accommodation spare tonight in London? You can, you know how social we are these days.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a cheap date, but.
We're going to have to go. Yeah. So the last question.
Hi, my name is Teresa Lee. Thank you so much for every single person on the panel for taking the time out to come here and share with your stories and inspiring us. You know, I'm sure everyone in the audience are truly inspired.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that it? That could be
No. My question is, you know, it's actually been a very long time since I'm actually back here at the British Library. I actually first came here back in 2008, where I registered for my company, started my company, and I was actually really lucky to make Business of the Month by the British Library as well. So there's a video of me on YouTube if you want to look it up. I started out in like home cooking lessons, and then after that I opened my own restaurant, La Du Du Vietnamese restaurant in London West Hampstead.
Yeah.
I just recently closed the restaurant a month and a half ago, and now I'm going into like a food product. So
Can we just give Ryan a clap, please?
Thank you, Ryan.
He will be locked in tonight. So what is your question?
So I'm going to food products now. So my question is that at what stage of your food production that you getting from your kitchen into a commercial manufacturing plant, and at what stage do you actually thinking about having your own manufacturing plant?
So what stage do you actually think about going into a manufacturing plant and having all that
Right.
your own as well?
So I think it depends where you sell your product. So if you sell to just like in your local corner stores, I think they're more relaxed about where you make the products. But you'll find that you'll need to go into like a kitchen that has HACCP, or if you start trading in, so there are different hygiene certification levels, and a lot of times, personal kitchens don't quite make the mark of the certification level that you need. So with supermarkets, you need BRC accreditation. So unfortunately for that one's really more of you need to find a manufacturer who's BRC certified. Yeah.
Oh,
but
good.
I would strongly suggest, unless because for us, we had to build a plant because there was no one making our product in the world. So we had to build our own production line. But for, if you're making a sauce or sausages, or the best thing really is for you to go to a BRC accredited white label manufacturer, because the great thing about that is he's making all these other products, so the costs are lower, his overheads are lower, so the toll fee, the fees he charges you should be competitive. But I would, if you had a pot of money that you're saving for your business, use it for marketing. Don't use it for building your own production line if you can.
So maybe carry on with that conversation afterwards in the networking drink. So thank you very much to all our panellists. Before you go, we'll give them a clap in just a moment. But for the audience here in London, we've got a fantastic prize draw for you. So all we need you to do is fill out your survey forms that Isabel mentioned earlier. And they need to be completed fully. And they will be checked. And then you need to be here. You've got to be in it to win it, haven't we, Isabel? We like saying that. And also, we will keep calling out names until someone is here to collect the prize. So here we have a drum roll, please. Let's get a drum roll. Thank you. We have a box of Propercorn popcorn. Oh, great, he's left them here. Fabulous. So we've got quite a few boxes. That's great. 3-month subscription of Cauli rice products. Sounds fabulous. Well, and we've got some beer from Beavertown and apparently a whole stack of merchandise. So you two can look like Logan and all these. Yeah, there you go. Very rock and roll. And fantastic cookbook from Anjum. I Love India. Is that your latest one?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
So signed as well. And I'm going to throw in a copy of my book as well, Insider Secrets of Public Speaking. Nice. Plus, I'm hosting an event for the BIPC on September the 18th, a workshop on presentation skills. And I'm quite happy to throw in a free place for somebody. So those are the prizes. Give it a bit of a woo! Thank you. Then we're at a game show. And just a big thank you to our brilliant guest speakers, to Jem, to Logan, to Kitty, to Anjum, and Ryan, wherever he's gone. So a big round of applause for them. And on behalf of the Business and IP Centre, thank you so much for coming along today. I hope you found that really inspirational, some great ideas. If I can ask you to approach the speakers outside this room at the networking drinks reception, that'd be great, and then we'll do the prize draw shortly. Thank you again, you've been a fantastic audience. Good night. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Good.
It's really good. Thank you very much.